God. I ended up going out there. Yeah, we've seen. I didn't think it was going to be as big as it was. We've seen Rob Zombie was headlining it.
Oh shit!
Yeah.
Did you have a long weekend? Did he play some of his old stuff? He was playing his old stuff and he was playing a little bit of everything when he was touring years ago.
Yeah, I mean, it was a great show. Actually, I think my favorite. You remember The Offspring?
Yeah.
Gone Away, Pretty Flat for a White Guy. They were there. It was like an old, it was actually a 4-day thing, but Offspring was hands down my favorite band. They were so good. But yeah, Rob Zombie, he did a couple covers. He did Helter Skelter, the Beatles. He did School's Out by Alice Cooper.
Sure.
And he did like his Living Dead Girl, Dragula, More Human Than Human, did some new stuff. And
see, that was an album I really I was right at the right age for that album.
The Dragula?
Living Dead Girl, yeah, all that stuff.
Yeah, I remember when that came out. It was, we were probably 15, 16.
Probably doesn't hold up these days, but... Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. This is episode 23 of the Exploding Star Podcast. How was your weekend, man?
It was pretty good. Had a lot of fun. Made some money. Saw some music. Good times.
As you know, Biden instituted a mask mandate. He grew a huge set of cojones. And basically a mask mandate at this point. Any employer with over 100 employees has to wear a mask now. What do you think about that?
I've got mixed feelings about it, really.
You think it's authoritarian?
It is authoritarian, but that doesn't mean it's not the right thing to do also.
Sure.
So, everybody's tired of this. Being tired of it doesn't mean that we can stop ignoring the safety aspect and thinking about the welfare of the other people in our community. But it's getting pretty old at this point. The slog has continued a lot longer.
Right.
I know the big issue for me is the kind of change in that even if you've been vaccinated, you still have to wear this. And I don't know. I think it was just a lot of hopes. And obviously, if that's what the science says, is that I can still transmit it, then I can still transmit it. And they may just not have known that back then. But
that was prior to Delta variant. The Delta variant kind of changed that.
Sure. Yeah. So
transmissibility is a lot higher.
And it's people just don't have the.
See, people on my side, on the other side, are saying we're sick of it too. So everybody needs to just buckle down and get this shit handled.
Yeah. Really, yeah, and this stuff's complicated. It takes a lot to understand it, and it's hard to weed through what seem like contradictory statements.
Sure. After the mask mandate, he was a little upset. This cracks me up every time, dude.
He seems like a perfectly reasonable human being.
I love this guy. His life is ruined after that video. Forever will he be known as that guy.
No, you freak out on a plane one time and all of a sudden everyone...
Did you see the beginning of it? He was trying to have him let him off the plane in mid-flight.
No, that's the first time
Really? Well, it's almost as bad as the gas chambers, That's what Marjorie Taylor Greene said. She's right, It's horrible, wearing a face covering.
Yeah, I remember that part in The Diary of Anne Frank, where she's like, I'm worried that they're going to make me wear a mask.
Dude,
Make
I'm
my
reading.
whole family wear masks.
I'm reading Operation Paperclip, and it's so crazy. You know, I read all this stuff when I was a kid, but going back through it again, it's just horrific, dude. The number of slave labor prisoners they had. Not only did they have slave labor, you know, we had slave labor in this country. They had slave labor, but they were also starving the people simultaneously, doing all sorts of crazy experiments on them and shit. Like in this there was this one factory built in this underground cave, this abandoned, some sort of abandoned mine. They were building the V2 rockets. There's just thousands and thousands of, Jews and communists and gypsies, prisoners, just starving to death, and they would work them to death. Literally, half of them died, over the course of a couple months. Crazy stories, man.
Yeah, it's a man. You get into that history, it's just so gruesome.
It is.
Was it Mengele was doing operations on living people? Giving them just this drug, that drug, just to see what it does. Not anesthetizing them or putting them under or giving them any sort of painkillers or anything.
Well, that's one way to run your society. Just have half the society elevated and the other half subjugated, and then you raise the standard of living for the half that you're in. Hopefully.
Yeah. Cruelty for the sake of cruelty, it seems like, and that would be something interesting to talk about. So, Operation Paperclip was us getting a lot of these guys and bringing them over here, so that we could, I guess, ostensibly for our own war effort originally, and
heinous war criminals, though.
Heinous war criminals.
The factory I was talking about, the head of that factory, who's guilty of numerous crimes against humanity, is one of the people that were brought over.
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, obviously, I'm not prepared for this. I'm sure you're not either. But
no,
I would like to hear the arguments. Like, obviously, they're terrible people and they did terrible things, but was it still worth it to bring them over here and say, hey, we're going to give you immunity to prosecution, but you are going to have to work for us to help end this war? I don't know. It's an interesting argument. I've kind of heard it tangentially over the years, and I really don't know where I stand on it.
You kill one person, it's the death penalty. You kill 1 million Jews, and you get a job in the CIA.
Yeah.
It seems a little unethical, but that's not what we're here to talk about today. We're here to talk about today about the American capitalist system, how great it is, of course. Beautiful, isn't it?
Beautiful work, James. Bravo. Bravo, buddy.
I cracked myself up. All right. I wanted to talk some Elon Musk. I didn't know that much about him going in, and his story's pretty interesting. And this sort of touches on our continuous conversation, obviously. Let's open this with a clip of the man in question, Mr. Elon Musk. And then we'll discuss his background a little bit, I guess.
I mean, basically, it's a generalized sort of thing for fixing any kind of brain injury. In principle, like if you've got like severe epilepsy or something like that, it could just sort of stop the epilepsy from occurring. Like it could detect it in real time and then fire a counter pulse and stop the epilepsy.
Man, the myth, the legend, Elon Musk.
I mean, there's a whole range of brain injuries. Like somebody gets a stroke, they could.
He's talking about his Neuralink, which turned out to be basically just electrodes in your brain that would shock your brain.
Yeah, I remember that podcast very well, and
he didn't come off great in that one, did he?
The way he was talking about this Neuralink, just going to revolutionize and change the way we interface, and imagine. And he said, I think he said it'll be released within a year, or maybe 2 tops. Yeah, just nothing ever come of it. It's the same old stuff that they've been doing for decades.
There was some article that came out about it. It did sort of launch, but it was, like you said, it was technology that already existed.
Yeah.
That he was trying to, obviously his real skill is getting investments, right? That's what he's good at. So
Yeah.
So Elon Musk's background, his parents, his father was a white South African rich guy, so you know where all that money came from. And his father originally sold one of his private airplanes to purchase an emerald mine for 320,000 pounds in today's dollars, adjusted for inflation. And his mother...
My dad did.
Everyone's father buys an emerald mine. His mother, May... There was some story about Elon walking around with pocketfuls of emeralds when he was a kid, but I didn't put that in the doc, so we're not going to talk about that today. His mother, May, was the daughter of... Her parents were explorers, whatever that means, in Canada. You can take a guess what that means. And she was a finalist in Miss South Africa beauty pageant. I put finalist, but I thought she won that.
Just like my mom. Oh my God, this is getting a little too close to home, James. Continue.
Your mother was a beauty pageant person?
She in South Africa, yes.
No.
My dad didn't have emerald mines either.
He didn't get any apartheid money?
I don't think so. I never asked.
Photo. I have a photo of both of them here. Hold on.
It's hot.
Yeah, well, I mean...
What happens when you're rich? You're beautiful.
You marry and have kids with, other rich people. Let's see if I can find the photos. Okay, there she is today. Or not today, but...
Okay. Things didn't go well.
That's his brother, his younger brother here.
I bet he's a fucking...
There's his dad. Elon called him a terrible human being in 2018 because he mentally abused him. There's a story where at one point he made Elon and his brother sit down for like 4 hours while he lectured them. They couldn't move or speak. And this is
4 hours?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
That's pretty bad, but it's not. Maybe there's worse. I don't know, but
seems like a perspective thing. I mean, yeah, that sucks. That's not cool. But there are way worse.
He must have did something right. I don't know.
I think there is some truth to, pressure makes diamonds.
Yeah, there is, but how ethical is that? You don't know what results you're going to get.
You're right. You're right.
Shit out of your kids because maybe you'll.
Pressure also makes coal dust.
Sure. Also makes drug addicts and suicides.
It makes a lot of that, yeah. So,
at age 12, Elon Musk sold a video game to a magazine. That was his first claim to fame. He sold it for like a couple $100. Blastar. It's not bad. I could do better than this, but not at 12. Definitely not at 12.
Not at 12. I think that this right here is a perfect analogy for what he's doing right now, which is taking games and products and technologies that already exist and just rebranding it with his name on it.
It is kind of like
that's what is it? The blaster,
or...
the space asteroid. Yeah, there was another one that's similar to that. Yeah. He just took it, he changed it slightly, and put it out there. And that's, you find a winning recipe, you just stick with it, I guess.
Well, his first. Let's go into it here. In 1980, his parents divorced. Musk chose to live mostly with his father, and he regretted that decision later, he said. In 1988, at the age of 17, Elon Musk left South Africa to avoid mandatory military service. He attended Queen's University in Canada, then moved to Pennsylvania and attended the University of Pennsylvania before transferring to Stanford in 1997. He left Stanford after 2 school days to work, quote-unquote, in the internet. And he founded his first company in 1995, 2 years earlier, in fact, before he went to Stanford. He founded this company, Zip2. This was pretty interesting. This was his first venture. It's a good thing he didn't have to work a job, or he wouldn't have had time to do all this shit, and he knew all these rich people to begin with, but besides the point here. This was a company where he combined GPS technology at the time, in 95, so it was pretty early technology. He combined GPS technology with business directories. He got a company to give him their GPS coding, and he combined that coding with some business information that he also acquired, and he put it together and made this program to show people where businesses were located, essentially. This was his first company. Let's see.
Seems like a good idea. Seems like a...
Yeah, it's a good way to make some cash, I guess.
Yeah.
At least he did something, you know.
Yeah, I mean, that's very reasonable. It's technology that we want out there, you know, different people providing their own versions of it. I mean, of course, now we have like Google Maps, Apple Maps, stuff like that, but that's where it comes from. So
Musk he's an interesting character because there is some good in him somewhere.
Yeah.
He's like Darth Vader or something. Like somewhere deep down, there's some good left in him, you know. You just have to get it out.
I don't know. Well, maybe we'll get to it more at the end, but I don't think he's a bad person. I don't think
so either.
I don't think what he's doing necessarily is malicious.
He's kind of dumb. I mean,
I think he's built an idea of himself, and he's trying to sell. He's maybe trying to sell the idea of himself and what he wants to do more than he's trying to sell the actual products.
Well, isn't that what we all do, though?
He definitely wants to sell his products.
Isn't that what we all do, Tony?
Yeah, it is. He's just been very successful at it. He's just better at it.
Had a head start.
And his dad have emerald mines. Got that emerald mine money.
Sorkin was this guy he sort of feuded with Zip2, but eventually they did sell the company. In 1999, Compaq Computer Corporation purchased Zip2 for $307 million, and Zip2 became a unit of the search engine Alta Vista and got subsumed. That was his first venture. He sold out, made a bunch of money there, and moving right along. His big project, obviously, that made him the most money was, originally it was XCOM. It was one of the world's first online banks. It was co-founded by Elon Musk, Harris Fricker, Christopher Payne, and Ed Ho in March 1999. In March 2000, XCOM merged with Confinity Inc., a software company based in Silicon Valley. Musk was attracted to Confinity because of its easy payment system. The merged company changed its name to PayPal. eBay bought PayPal for $1.5 billion in 2002. That was his big payday, his initial one. Let's see. Confinity Inc., the company that he merged with, was co-founded by three people, including Peter Thiel. I'm not sure if you know who this character is, but we're definitely going to do a segment on him at some point.
I've heard about him, yes. No.
He is a multimillionaire, also a South African apartheid money guy, who was an early investor in Facebook after serving as advisor to Ronald Reagan's education secretary. Peter Thiel, among many other things, has donated a large amount of money to the Seasteading Institute. The Seasteading Institute is led by Patrick Friedman, grandson of Milton Friedman, an anarcho-capitalist ex-Google tech who founded the Seasteading Institute to design and build autonomous seabound nations independent from any governments. Let's see if we have a photograph. Sounds like a utopia, right, Tony?
Yeah, it sounds like a blast. I'm sure it's
great idea.
Off and running with all his entrepreneurship and
reimagining civilization with floating cities. Seasteading is building floating societies with a significant political autonomy. Nearly half of the world's surface is unclaimed by any nation-state, and many coastal nations can legislate seasteads in their territorial waters. And he had planned on building this off the coast of like Chile or some shit in South America, because we can just kind of bully them with money. And this is according to them. The purpose of Seasteading Institute is to establish permanent autonomous ocean communities to enable experimentation and innovation with diverse social, political, and legal systems. In other words, this is to provide tax havens for rich people so they don't have to support social services in the countries from which they extracted all of the wealth. And they sort of are open about this. They mention this at some point, that this is essentially to provide tax havens.
Yeah, well, I mean, this just comes down to tax reform in the U.S. It's like they're more than happy to do that. Just if they make the money in the U.S. and send it there, then tax it on the way out, tax it back on the way in.
Exactly.
Fine, do what you want on your.
You think that's going to happen?
Your pontoon.
Trash Island.
Trash Island.
Who did we put on the Trash Island last week? I don't remember now. Michael Malice, maybe.
I think it was Michael Malice.
We sent somebody to the trash island. Peter Thiel is also famous for funding James O'Keefe, Project Veritas founder, Ron Paul, and Donald Trump, and pumps money into companies focused on the AI singularity and anti-aging technologies. So he's working on tax havens, offshore. He's working on AI singularity. That's when AI becomes smart enough to advance itself technologically. That's the singularity. And he's also focused on anti-aging. So he wants to live forever and own everything. Peter Thiel. He's an interesting guy, man. We have to talk about him some, too.
Sure, yeah.
At some point. Let's get into SpaceX here. In 2002, Elon Musk approached the real head of SpaceX, Tom Mueller. This is the engineer who makes all the rockets. He is a working class guy, in fact. He's the son of a logger in Idaho who excelled in school to become one of the world's leading experts on liquid rocket propulsion technology. He designed and built the Merlin engines used by SpaceX.
SpaceX's focus shifted to the Falcon 9 and Dragon. Falcon 9 was powered by a cluster of 9 Merlin 1C engines. It reached orbit for the first time in June 2010. Over the next few years, the Merlin engine rapidly evolved as Mueller and his team ran it through a rigorous testing optimization regime. Today, the Merlin 1D engine has the highest thrust-to-weight ratio of any liquid rocket engine in existence, by a massive margin. Thanks to these upgrades, SpaceX was able to upgrade the payload capacity of the Falcon 9 from 9,000 kilograms on the version 1 to more than 22,800 kilograms on the latest Block 5 variant today. That's over 150% boost in performance. Falcon 9 also became the first orbital rocket to be able to land its booster propulsively, with the first landing taking place in December 2015. You can actually go today and see that booster in Hawthorne, California at SpaceX headquarters.
Pretty cool.
You familiar with Thunderfoot?
No, I don't think so.
YouTuber. Okay.
The dinosaur.
Anybody interested?
Land Before Time.
Yeah. Yes, that same. Anybody that's interested in Thunderfoot, he's a working scientist, research scientist, and he does all these great breakdowns of all this stuff.
Oh, is that Thunder F00T?
Yeah.
We might have a clip from him here later, maybe. I'm not sure whose video it is, but it might be him.
Oh, he does all sorts of kind of basically takedowns of the technology. He really gets into explaining, like, this is what it was before. This is what NASA was doing. This is what he's doing. Now, they're saying it's 100% more, 50% more payload capacity, but that's nonsense, because it just breaks it down number by number.
But the SpaceX rocket is cool. I mean, the technology is pretty good, especially those engines, like he said. Obviously, Musk didn't design the engines or anything, but let's see. In March 2006, SpaceX made its first Falcon 1 launch, which began successfully but ended prematurely because of a fuel leak and fire. By this time, however, the company had already earned millions of dollars in launching orders, many of them from the U.S. government. In August of that year, SpaceX was a winner of a NASA competition for funds to build and demonstrate spacecraft that could potentially service the ISS after the decommissioning of the space shuttle. Falcon 1 launches that failed to attain Earth orbit followed in March 2007 and August 2008, but in September 2008, SpaceX became the first privately owned company to send a liquid-fueled rocket into orbit. 3 months later, it won a NASA contract for servicing the ISS that was worth more than $1 billion. It's a hell of a contract. And in 2018, with approximately 30 missions on the manifest, SpaceX represents over U.S. dollars $12 billion under contract.
My understanding was that the NASA program was substantially cheaper using their own shuttle.
It may be the case, I don't know. According to Musk, he's reduced the cost of launches.
Yes, according to Musk.
Down telemetry nominal. Landing legs have deployed.
And he claims that a lot of the savings is landing the engine, stages. They call them stages.
Stages.
Yeah,
landing operators moving to procedure 11.100 on recovery net.
And they land the thing on this ship, this drone ship, and the ship brings it back in from Florida where they're at.
I'm really not sure why that would. That certainly looks cool, and it would get somebody like me excited. I don't know the how much sense it makes to save the rocket like that. Like how much extra fuel you're going to have to, because that's
the extra fuel for the counter burn, but you're saving money on the metal, I think, right?
Metal's cheap, man. Metal's cheap as hell.
Maybe not
I mean,
space
I'm sure.
metal.
I don't
fucking know.
It is space metal. Good point. Good point.
Adamantium, isn't it?
I think so. Probably vibranium.
In 2004, Elon Musk became one of the main funders, $30 million, of Tesla Motors, a company founded by two tech entrepreneurs from California, and he became the chairman. Tesla marketed its Model S as an electric vehicle and a sports car, a business model which worked. Previously, electric cars had been marketed to the middle class. In 2018, Musk was sued by the SEC for tweeting about his company ahead of going public.
Yeah. Was he just like giving information out that he shouldn't have about?
He was sort of making a statement that people could interpret as meaning to buy or sell, presumably. He's been warned, but he's been warned about that before, obviously. Everyone remembers this famous scene, the genius entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Oh, this is so cringe. It's so cringe.
Oh my God. Well,
Yes.
maybe that was a little too hard.
He asked him if you were sure too. He's like, "Are you sure?" He's like, "Do it."
Well, remember
Didn't go through. So
Could you imagine
go
being on
through.
that stage right now? Could you imagine being that guy?
My blood pressure would be 400.
Oh man, didn't go through.
Classic.
Oh my
Look
God,
at this.
I love it.
Would you drive this truck, dude? Look at this truck.
No, it looks
Supposedly,
awful.
it's just probably a Model S frame, I guess, a little bit lifted, but you can't haul anything with it, really. It has a small little, sort of like a Ranger-sized bed in it, I guess. But
Yeah,
the way it
I
looks,
don't know. It just looks awful, I think.
it looks different. I mean, you have to give him that. It looks different.
That's one of those. Yeah, I mean, for and this is my issue with it is almost purely aesthetic. I just don't like the look of it. Some people might, so whatever.
Well, I don't think it can
I
haul
know
that much either.
When it comes to any of those things, apparently the weight that it can haul is substantially more than any similarly sized truck on the market. Like I've got a Chevy pickup. The issue is how long it can haul it. Just like with any of these things, if you're running that much horsepower, that much torque, you're just going to burn battery up in no time.
Do you follow Chris Hedges at all?
Tangentially, yeah, a little bit, not too much.
He had a couple authors on his show the other day talking about how it's all sort of fake. The green movement focused around electric cars and whatnot, because just the technology is not as good as we think it is. And there's no way to really replace diesel for international shipping anytime soon. You can replace it for cars and whatnot, but you can't. First of all, you can't replace coal-fired power plants anytime soon. And additionally, international shipping is our main use of diesel. And you can't just get rid of all that diesel. I mean, people were sort of trolling in the comments. You could have to go back to sailing ships, but I don't think you can haul that much cargo with a sailing ship. I don't think. You'd have to have some big-ass sails on that thing, man.
Yeah, that seems a little impractical. That's you don't want to be waiting on if you're a business owner in the U.S., you don't want to be waiting on your shipment from China to be dependent on the weather to that degree. Yeah, I mean, really, it really just comes down to the batteries. That's the only issue with any of this electric stuff right now, or anything that's even solar. So all solar panels are battery chargers, and as of right now, the battery technology is just not where you can't contain the same amount of energy in a battery that you can in a gallon of gasoline,
Sure.
by the weight. So, but thankfully, I mean, this is one thing that Elon Musk is working on. I mean, that's a big part of his company is redoing, kind of revamping battery technology.
He's
So
going in the
hopefully
right direction,
something.
which is good.
Yeah.
He's definitely
And,
garnered interest around it.
Yeah, and the issue is, like, per kilo, you can get substances, make batteries that have a greater potential energy. But the more potential energy that you're able to put in whatever the substance is, the more volatile the substance becomes.
Right. Here's a quote. This is from Medium.com. I'm not familiar with this publisher, so take this with a grain of salt. But The question, do ships pollute more than cars? Shipping containers produce more greenhouse gas emissions than some small countries. According to the Essential Daily Briefing, it has been estimated that just one of these container ships, the length of around 6 football pitches, can produce the same amount of pollution as 50 million cars. So the cars are great and all, but really replacing diesel is just not possible at this point, perhaps. I'm not an expert, I don't know, but this is just what these authors were saying the other day.
I know that there are various companies that are trying to create the Hyperloop, and honestly, I think it's a lot easier than people think.
The blueprints are pretty complicated.
Well, blueprints are always kind of complicated, and I mean, yes, there's math, but it's really not that hard.
It still sounds pretty complicated, Elon.
It's like a tube with an air hockey table. It's just a low-pressure tube with a pod in it that runs on air bearings, on air skis, with an air compressor on the front that's...
He seems so genuine. He would probably be a totally normal guy if he wasn't rich as hell, He seems like a nice, genuine guy. That's why he's so popular, I guess.
I don't know about that, because, like, the Hyperloop in particular, what he's talking about is... It's a cool idea, but the impracticality of it just... I think surely, if he's half as smart as he puts on, he knows, someone has explained to him how incredibly impractical the Hyperloop would have been, how incredibly difficult it would have been. So initially it was supposed to be a vacuum tube. And to make a tube that can hold a vacuum that was as long as he's saying, it's just... Nobody thinks it can be done, or certainly nobody thinks it can be done for the price that he's talking about doing it at.
Sure.
And at a certain point, like, he's got to be going out there and giving the spiel, knowing that what he's selling is kind of snakeable. So
maybe
I want him to be. I want it to be true. I want to believe in the myth of Elon Musk, but that he's this dreamer, and whether he fails or he succeeds, he's out there and he's honestly trying to, just create new technology for the betterment of mankind. But you listen to certain people explain the technology he's trying to create, and you realize, like, oh, this is bullshit, and he kind of knows it's bullshit.
Huh.
A big tunnel boring machine like Bertha in Seattle, which is digging the new Alaskan Way tunnel, moves about 35 feet a day. So that's about 150 days to go a mile. So a lot of really long tunnels have multiple TBMs which approach each other from multiple access shafts, so the work can be completed within a reasonable amount of time. Okay, so what is the boring company claiming to change about this? They want to beat the snail, which by my math involves speeding up the tunnel boring machine until it does a mile in 34.5 hours instead of 150 days. So, something like the 35-mile Goddard Base Tunnel in Switzerland would take 2 months instead of 10 years. Okay. The boring company's FAQ claims that part of this is to be achieved by building smaller diameter tunnels, but also by fiddling around with the operational specifics of the TBM and some abstract increase in power.
Vegeta, what does the scouter say about his power level? It's over 9,000! What, 9,000?
Which, I don't know, means they'll spin the cutting head faster or something. So I don't have any super firm technical criticism here, to be honest. From a strength of material standpoint, it sounds fishy, though. Existing TBM cutting heads have expendable cutters. Those are the little guys on the front which actually cut the rock or soil or whatever.
This was so interesting to me, dude.
An extensive manual process, especially if, as mentioned before, the cutting head is pressurized owing to unfavorable soil conditions. You're working in confined spaces at high pressures with heavy and dangerous equipment. So, the folks who do the work on the front of the machine get paid a lot. But also, you're spending several hours at the beginning and end of your work time sitting around in a pressurization chamber. So, a 1-hour job has 8 or 9 hours of decompression or whatever.
It's crazy, dude. I didn't realize this.
Oh, wow.
It's kind of like scuba diving when they do this, because for some reason the cutting head is pressurized, and it has to be for some strange reason. I don't know. This guy goes into it deep about how this company is like snake oil, like you said. And I don't know if Elon Musk, I just think he has these ideas, and then he goes to his buddy, and he's like, make it happen.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't think that he's... I can see him as being idealistic and being a dreamer and shooting for the moon. But I don't think he's a fool. At least that's the read I get.
I don't know. I have a different take on him, to be honest with you. He just seems kind of slow or like dumb or something to me. I don't know. Maybe he's just playing a part.
I don't get that.
He's just like he's an investment guy. He gets investment.
But now, so the tunnel boring technology, I think stuff like that's great. Obviously, it's not right now. It's a different technology that does not currently equal the current technology we're using. This is how technology is developed. You start off low, try a different thing.
He's not trying a different thing, though. He's trying the same thing, but he's trying it in a slightly different way to make it cheaper.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's
so often when projects try to make things cheaper, they do it by squeezing the workers, man. That's what I worry about, you know.
Yeah. Well, I definitely know he does that. We had some when I worked maintenance for General Electric some years ago, and a bunch of us on the maintenance crew got reached out to by email from Tesla, the Tesla Motors in Southwest Arizona, maybe. Yeah, they were offering all of us jobs.
Oh shit!
Help us relocate the whole thing. Big hourly rate of I think $21 an hour. Everyone I was working with, 30. That was kind of the going rate at the time for a maintenance guy. He was substantially below what we were used to making. I think he was kind of going on name recognition. People wanted to be involved,
right,
as opposed to really getting people.
Anybody go?
There was one guy that was considering it quite a bit, but no, nobody went. I mean, moved to Arizona and make 50%.
You might get some young people who are sort of Elon worshippers to go, you know?
Yeah, there was one young guy. I wouldn't have went just because I've kind of got my roots here, but there was one younger guy that was considering it, and I talked with him about it quite a bit. He ended up not going. He's like, man, I can't take that kind of pay cut. And the cost of living there was not substantially less than the cost of living in Kentucky either. So at least at that plant in that particular trade, he was not paying anywhere close to kind of prevailing wage for that trade.
This is so interesting to me. Just the technology. It seems like a really good idea, man. It's just not. It's not going to happen. It's already happening, and it can't happen much faster, it seems.
Conditions. But in addition to the easy problem, there's the hard problem, which is doing all that safely. Right, so at 4,000 cars an hour, that's a car every 9/10 of a second. So they'll be spaced about 198 feet apart at 150 miles an hour. And if one of them has some kind of catastrophic failure, which requires an emergency stop, your rate of acceleration while stopping would be somewhere around 7 Gs for 9/10 of a second to avoid hitting it.
7 Gs, dude.
Okay, right. So this is not possible without an aircraft carrier-style arrestor cable. No conventional braking system can stop that quickly.
So if something goes wrong in the tunnel, he's just pointing out here the fact that you cannot stop that thing going that fast with normal brakes. He also makes the point that the tunnel, the ones they wound up going with, you ride on the car's own tires. And your tires wear at a rate based upon your speed. In cars going that fast, you're going to go through tires like 5 sets of tires a year or something. He did all the calculations on this video. It's a great video. This is Do Not Eat 01. This is an awesome video. He breaks everything down.
Yeah, and so because this is, the Hyperloop has changed several times, like what it was going to be over the years. So this is the most recent iteration, where it's just going to be a tunnel for cars to go in.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because originally it was a vacuum tube, and then it was going to be this other thing, and it keeps kind of changing quite a bit and becoming a lot more just like underground rail.
Takes up a
He's talking about here how much space you would need in the city to move the cars in and out of the tunnel. You need a shitload of space
hold 2 3/4 blocks.
Just for this one highway here, which doesn't hold anything like he wants this tunnel to hold, it requires 3.5 city blocks. Like, the logistics of it just weren't thought out well. It wasn't a very well conceived idea.
So I think this is the genius of Musk, if that's what you want to call it, is that he gets out there, he talks this stuff up, makes these great arguments. You know, we're not reinventing the wheel. We're revolutionizing this whole new thing, and you know, we're going to get this. We're working right now to get a contract to connect Washington D.C. and L.A. or do this and this and stuff like that. It gets people, kind of gets in your head that, oh, this is going to be doing big things. He's talking about connecting here to here, and that's crazy. And okay, now that's how he gets these contracts, and that's how he gets people to invest in these things. But I think it's just a lot of talk and salesmanship.
You're exactly right. And in fact, in this video, this Do Not Eat character talks about that specific thing. He talks about how the reason the mass transit systems we have exist is because, for example, the only private one really is Greyhound. And Greyhound is able to function at a profit because the government pays for all their infrastructure. They build all the roads for them. And any sort of trains you have to build your own infrastructure for, which is basically what this is, an underground sort of train he was trying to do. And it's just not profitable to build all that infrastructure and pay for it. It's just not possible without government funding.
Projects like this, I'm completely happy for the government to invest in private companies that are that are creatively trying to solve problems that we're facing as a nation. I've got no issue with that, but I think we need to go ahead and just put some salary bullshit detectors in these different government grant offices that can go through these things and figure out if it's just salesmanship or if there's actually something there worth looking into.
When the people asking for the contracts are also simultaneously lobbying the government to get the same contracts, it's sort of the exact opposite of what we need, right? We need to fund the good programs, not just fund the programs that you have a keen interest on or you want to perhaps be a part of when you get out of office, which is often what happens, especially in the banking sector in Wall Street, right?
All comes back to lobbying, doesn't it?
It always does,
so much
man.
What we talked about.
The biggest problem in modern society, at least in the United States.
Yeah. Chalk this one up again, yeah. I mean, you just need objectivity, and there's just not objectivity when someone has a promise of a job or and fed a line of BS. So,
or they get wined and dined by freaking rich lobbyists.
NBC investigative reporter Sarus Farvar researched some of those projects for his piece on the Boring Company.
There were 2 proposals in Los Angeles. One was to build a 2.5-mile tunnel alongside the 405 freeway. There was a lawsuit over questions of environmental review that basically brought that project to a halt. There was another tunnel that was proposed that would bring fans of the Los Angeles Dodgers baseball team from an existing LA metro station to Dodger Stadium, but that also has not happened yet. In 2018, in Chicago, the Boring Company imagined a high-speed service between downtown Chicago and O'Hare International Airport, but 3 years after that, the new mayor is not really interested in this project, and that doesn't seem to have gone anywhere. And then finally, the really ambitious project that the company proposed, they published a 500-page environmental assessment in 2019 that would have connected downtown Washington, D.C. to downtown Baltimore, or a distance of 35 miles. But again, that project doesn't seem to have gone anywhere.
The Boring Company didn't respond to multiple requests for comment by CNBC. If there is one thing that all the...
So unlike SpaceX, the Boring Company has not really garnered much in the way of venture capital or government funding. So they look kind of dead, man.
Yeah.
It's a good idea. It really is, but just the logistics don't seem there.
I mean, the idea of setting up mass transit and setting it up underground seems like a good idea. From what I've read, from what I understand, the means by which he was trying to go about it were just complete nonsense. And
the answer is freaking public transit. We need to get rid of all the damn cars, man. There don't need to be 1 million cars in the city, especially.
Yeah, I'm 100% for that. Mass transit, try to make it as green as possible. I was going to say that bullet train in Japan, you always hear about that. I don't know how green that is, but there's no reason why we...
Isn't it?
Yeah, it is
Maglev?
electric. But the electricity to run it comes from probably nuclear, actually. I think they got a lot of nuclear plants there. So I was going to say, it's fine for it to be electric, but if you're getting your energy from a coal-powered plant, then it's
but it's more efficient than like burning diesel or something.
You're burning coal. You're burning coal.
Well, but just in terms of carbon footprint, it's lower to have an electric car running off a coal-fired power plant than to run a gasoline engine in the car. It's more efficient. It's not ideal. We need zero emissions, but you have to make incremental steps, I guess.
Sure.
There's no political will to really change anything at this point. Here's Elon Musk's political takes, which are great.
The extension of the shelter-in-place, or frankly, I would call it forcibly imprisoning people in their homes against all their constitutional rights. That's my opinion. And breaking people's freedoms in ways that are horrible and wrong, and not why people came to America or built this country. What the excuse me. People, the outrage. It's an outrage.
Musk went on to call the government response to coronavirus fascist.
I have to think about the future, and also to ask, is it right to infringe upon people's rights, as what is happening right now? I think the people are going to be very angry about this, and are very angry.
I'll give you my opinion. What is your opinion of this sort of sentiment?
Completely understandable. It is an infringement on people's rights. People do have a right to be... I don't say necessarily have a right. People are understandably angry. There has been a shit job at messaging, I think, through this whole thing.
I guess my real question is Elon right to be complaining this way? Is some rich guy complaining that his workers can't get to work, complaining about it, calling it fascist? He's rich as fuck. It doesn't matter to him. He can stay home.
This is one of those things. Yeah, this is one of those things where I don't think you could really make a determination one way or another unless you kind of knew, like, you kind of have to know what's going on in his heart. Maybe he actually has a genuine concern or worry about the people that work for his company.
Bullshit. He's a rich asshole. He's pissed off because he can't go to fucking Hooters.
Maybe.
I hear the same shit from Joe Rogan. It's the same bullshit. It's a bunch of rich people complaining that they can't have fucking workers wait on them hand and foot because of the coronavirus. That's my opinion.
Yeah. I don't know who. I'm sure he's got people waiting on him hand and foot regardless.
Sure.
If he's wanting his factory to be up and running.
Exactly. They're so backed up on production.
Yes. And whether it's because he just wants to make another $1 billion this year, whether he has a genuine concern about the people that work for him, or whether it's for his own ego and it's for the future. He wants to make sure the company doesn't fail. Maybe if they have downtime. I mean, it's anything like this is complex, and I don't think you could probably attribute any one thing to it. I'm sure it's a mixture of all those. I'm sure he doesn't want his all the people that work for him to leave, and he has to rehire everyone. I'm sure he does want to keep his ego going and have his company not go under during this. And I'm sure he wants to make another $1 billion so he can buy a bunch of new toys. So
I have no sympathy for him, dude. Let me break it down. Like, it's fascist to force workers to go back to work during a freaking pandemic to make you more money. That is fascism. That's literally fascism. Sorry, but he has no right to complain about this shit whatsoever. If he was one of these people about to lose their home because of the eviction moratorium getting lifted, then he could complain. Look on the streets of freaking Baltimore. Look on the streets anywhere in any major city, dude. It's crazy right now.
He certainly doesn't have a right to complain. He does have a right to be concerned. And I just don't know where this lies. I could make predictions all day long about what's going on in his head, but ultimately that's all I'm doing is just guessing at what's going on in his head.
Sure.
I tend to not like to do that a whole lot. Unless I do, in which case I'll predict all day long. But in this particular case, I just don't know. I don't know.
that's the end of the Genius Entrepreneur segment on Elon. Well, I'm sure we'll touch on him again because he's always in the news.
I'd love to touch on Elon.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you are interested in nootropics, check out my website. Our line of cutting-edge products is available at our lowest prices in the industry, now with free shipping through the fall.
Shire Hemp Farms, your number one source for Delta 8 CBD and smokable CBD products. Currently running a sale on the 1 mil Delta 8 carts, and I have seen a significant increase in sales since we started this, so do not miss out. This will not last forever. And for you listeners out there, ES Pod will get you an additional 20% off. Oh my God, that's insane. Check us out, shirehempfarms.com today.
Thank you to everyone who is listening to the show and watching the show. Please subscribe to us on our YouTube channels, follow us on Reddit, subscribe to us on Rumble. Leave your comments in the description, and we will answer them as soon as we possibly can. Head over to homepage. The link will be in the description. You can follow my Twitter account, follow Tony's Facebook page. You can follow us everywhere. Stitcher, iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and so on. Thank you guys very much, and we'll get right back to it here. And today is September the 12th, the day after Patriots Day, but we're going to discuss 9/11, and this is pretty nostalgic for me personally. I have very strong memories of this time, and for a lot of people our age, this was really the beginning of their political awakening, right?
We were at the perfect age to start paying attention to this stuff, and this was a huge, groundbreaking, earth-shattering moment, really. It literally did change everything.
We had the Cole bombing, but it wasn't on sort of U.S. soil the way this was.
Yeah, it was nothing like that.
And Teresa Renault is with us right now. Miss Renault, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
This is Bryant Gumbel. I'm down on 59th and 5th. Where are you?
So the first plane hits, and every news station is pointing cameras right at it while the second plane comes in here.
The area, and
this was crazy.
South.
Look at the building, dude. The whole building is just billowing smoke from all sides.
Approximately 10 minutes.
See, they were smart. The planes were loaded with fuel when they hit the buildings, and they sort of planned that.
Looks like it's affected probably 4 to 8 floors. Major flames are coming out of the north side and also.
Man, I remember this.
You can see it here in a second.
So clearly.
And it was very
Watch, you can see it here in a second.
By flames,
they don't notice it right away, though.
It's still on fire on the inside.
Here's the shot, I think. Watch this. Here it comes.
See. Yes, sir.
Did you hear the explosion?
Oh, yes.
See, they don't even notice it at first.
We did. As a matter of fact,
the second plane.
We heard it, and because I was just like standing there pretty much looking out the window, I didn't see what caused it or if there was an impact.
So you have no idea right now?
There's another one. Another plane just hit. Right. Oh, my God. Another plane has just
Look at that explosion, dude. Holy cow.
Building. Flew right into the middle of it. Explosion. My God, it's right in the middle of the building.
This one into the east tower?
Yes. Right in the middle of the building.
Crazy. I don't remember how long it takes, but eventually both towers fall, completely collapse.
Yeah, I don't think it was that long. Maybe
a couple hours, maybe.
I don't even think it was that long. I want to say it was 15, 30 minutes. I could be wrong, though.
Well, 8 years after the attacks, bin Laden blamed U.S. support of Israel, which we sort of figured, but is that an excuse after the fact, or is that his, Bin Laden was one of these characters that sort of reveled in the media attention. He was from a rich family in Saudi Arabia, and he loved the bad guy sort of persona, I think. I didn't watch a whole lot of his videos back in the day, but
he's a really difficult character to psychologically analyze. I think is the best way. I can't really get much of a read on him one way or another. I feel like he's a true believer that he believes what he's saying. I don't think that he's cynical. Aside from that, though, he's a enigma thing. I also think probably you and I are probably going to have some disagreement about what his motivations were behind this.
I'm not sure that he really had that much to do with it. They people did they blame for this? They blamed bin Laden. They blamed, what's this other guy?
Khalid Sheikh Mohammed.
We have some footage of here coming up later. I'm sure it was someone in his organization, but, he didn't take responsibility for it right away either, which kind of makes me question it, because it seems like if it was him, he would have said, hey, yeah, hell yeah, I did that, because that's something that he would be proud of.
Yeah. I don't, this is one of them things where I'm trying to get inside of his mind and his reasons for doing or not doing something.
Yeah.
It's my understanding is kind of the intelligence services of most of the governments in the world seemed pretty sure that this was him. It wasn't just like Donald Rumsfeld saying it was him.
Right.
England,
on his head.
Germany.
The footage throughout has no sound. The Americans said they were not in the business of spreading what they called Al-Qaeda propaganda.
They released the tapes but didn't release the audio, huh? Interesting. Do they have any footage of bin Laden left? Or have they disappeared at all? Somebody has to. I guess the CNN interview is the only thing. There's only the CNN interview. Everything else is gone because he basically rails against the U.S. and he points out all the shit the U.S. does. They probably didn't like that. But you can hear that anywhere, including from me. So
yeah. So this is where I think we're going to disagree. I feel like you're going to correct me if I'm wrong. I feel like you're going to take the stance that he was kind of a warrior against U.S. imperialism, and that what he was doing was striking back on behalf of oppressed people over economic and political concerns.
Well, that was his pretense, but he was a rich fucking asshole from Saudi Arabia.
I don't think my understanding from everything I've read about what he actually said was that was not his pretense. It was a purely religious thing. He was concerned
I don't think that's
with.
True.
Yeah, so if you read...
That's sort of Sam Harris propaganda.
No, this is bin Laden propaganda. This is exactly what he said. The motives. He goes on about different attacks on different Muslim cultures or U.S. support of them.
Yeah.
He is upset about troops being stationed, U.S. troops being stationed in Saudi Arabia.
Sure.
Our support of the...
Well, that's all the stuff I'm talking about.
Yes, but it's not in the context of colonialism. It's in the context of attacks on the Muslim people and being in the Muslim Holy Land.
He spoke at length about the Palestinians.
Yes, the Palestinians being in control of Jerusalem, which is a site that is holy to his faith. That's what he was concerned about, was that we were trampling on Islam, and we were desecrating these important religious sites.
I mean, he was clearly a fundamentalist, but I think it's sort of blaming it all on his religiosity is sort of besides the point, isn't it?
I'm not blaming on it. I'm saying this is how he framed everything, is not being a class struggle, not being a struggle against imperialism. It was a purely religious struggle. I mean, he was issuing fatwas back in 98 and 96, 98, and his concerns were not, we need to fight back the Western imperialists. His concerns were, we need to fight back the infidel hordes.
Well, he said
we can institute Sharia.
Right, sure.
A lot of this goes hand in hand with the imperialist side of it.
Are you sure he wasn't addressing a population he knew he could get on his side that were already sort of religiously motivated because, for various reasons?
Maybe he is. Maybe he's being cynical and he's just using that religious language to get a bunch of kind of I don't want to say ignorant, a bunch of those sorts of people. But I take the man at his word,
Let's play a little bit of this. I don't remember this that well.
Yeah.
The U.S. government has committed acts that are extremely unjust, hideous, and criminal through its support of the Israeli occupation of Palestine. And we believe the U.S. is directly responsible for those killed in Palestine, Lebanon, and Iraq. Due to its subordination to the Jews, the arrogance of the United States regime has reached the point that they occupied Arabia, the holiest place of the Muslims, who are more than 1 billion people in the world today. For this and other acts of aggression and injustice, we have declared jihad against the U.S.
It makes sense for him to bitch about Saudi Arabia because that's his sort of homeland, where his family's from.
The U.S.
doesn't make much sense to us, but
Yeah, I mean, with Saudi Arabia, we're invited in there by the royal family.
Oh yeah, we're buddy with them.
I don't think that the population of Saudi Arabia. I don't think it's. My understanding is the situation isn't that the population of Saudi Arabia is against us, whereas maybe the ruling family wants us to come in to support. Everyone's cool with us being there, and they're happy we're there, and they're happy we have that protection. But it's very holy land, and you're not supposed to have the infidels there. It's an issue. It's so hard to separate these things too, the imperialism from the religious grievances.
Well, you have to acknowledge, the United States has to acknowledge what it's done in the world, first of all, and we still can't do that. We whitewash everything, dude.
Sure.
It is important to go after air defense and Taliban aircraft. We need the freedom to operate on the ground and in the air, and the targets selected, if successfully destroyed, should permit an increasing degree of freedom over time.
2 hours after the first wave of airstrikes, C-17 aircraft began dropping thousands of emergency food rations, medicine and leaflets explaining the purpose of the airstrikes.
The leaflets. Remember the leaflets?
Yeah.
They dropped a bunch of bombs and then they dropped leaflets afterwards. Food and leaflets for whoever was left alive. We're not here to kill you. Didn't Team America make a joke about that? Fucking Rumsfeld, dude. Oh my god.
Everything I learned from that period, I learned from Team America.
Oh man. I remember all these. I watched all this, dude. I remember all of this. It's crazy. It just brings back so many memories, dude. According to the Costs of War Project at Brown University, the war killed 176,000 people in Afghanistan, 46,319 civilians, 69,095 military and police, and at least 53,000 Taliban fighters. On 7 September 2021, an interim government headed by Muhammad Hassan Akhund as prime minister was declared by the Taliban. They are back in power. 46,000 civilians, 69,000 military and police, and 52,000 Taliban fighters. Crazy death totals, dude.
Those are the published numbers.
That's Brown
in
University.
Afghanistan alone. Yeah, that's not
refugees or starvation.
All the secret wars we have going on in Pakistan, Libya,
and that was a good war,
Africa.
according to Obama.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the not so good war.
An end. Saddam Hussein and his sons must leave Iraq within 48 hours. Their refusal to do so will result in military conflict, commenced at a time of our choosing. For their own safety, all foreign nationals, including journalists and inspectors, should leave Iraq immediately.
Is it just me, or does he seem like giddy with joy, just trying to contain himself at the chance to bomb more brown people, dude? Look at this guy. And he's like friends with Michelle Obama now. It tells you how politics works in this country.
He seems like I don't think that. I think he seems like a very unserious person pretending to be serious.
Yeah, I agree.
Like that's what I look like when I put my dad face on.
Yeah.
And I have to.
I don't want to have to do this.
Listen, I'm really serious here.
It's going to hurt you more than it's going to hurt me.
Hurry! This bum's rush was intentional.
Hang on, go back.
This is a bird.
That looks like Senator Palpatine. Right there. Look at that.
Close.
Doesn't it? He's got the nose, the chin, the hair. That's Senator Palpatine.
He's doing like a Mussolini thing.
Being stampeded. They were saying, the vote will take place this week. Why all the hurry?
This bum's rush was intentional.
I remember
Leaked
all
documents would later reveal that the White House deliberately planned this propaganda campaign to coincide with the lead-up to the elections. Their talking points now became a mantra.
We cannot wait for the final proof, the smoking gun, that could come in the form of a mushroom cloud.
And there is a smoking gun or a mushroom cloud. We have waited too long.
Here?
We cannot wait for the smoking gun. A gun smokes.
It's almost like they've been fed these
after.
lines.
It's amazing that they all just happen to coalesce on the same language, the exact same language.
Saddam Hussein's regime trained
Almost like they're
Al-Qaeda operatives in bomb making.
on the same
Saddam
message.
is
They have
now
a messaging
training
committee that
Al-Qaeda
tells them how to do this.
in bomb making.
We know that Iraq and Al-Qaeda have had high-level contacts that go back a decade.
Senior level contacts between Iraq and Al-Qaeda going back a decade.
The president got his way. Even some prominent skeptics who didn't want to give the president so much power equivocated in the end.
This guy.
Debate. I find myself supporting this resolution, but worried that the rationale for supporting this resolution is going to get us in some real trouble. I hope we don't walk out of here with my voting for this final document and someone 6 months from now or 6 years from now saying, we have the right now to establish this new doctrine of preemption, to go anywhere we want, anytime.
So it is with conviction that I support this resolution as being in the best interests of our nation. A vote for it is not a vote to rush to war. It is a vote that puts awesome responsibility in the hands of our president. And
Hillary.
What a wonderful idea that was.
We need to give the president more power. That's what we need to do, Hillary.
I was going to say, what, second to World War II, it was probably the largest attack on civil liberties, the Patriot Act. So that was, Patriot Act was 2002?
Signed into law in October 2001, you're right, yeah. Super early then.
Right after.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was right after September 11th, and they just, they had this wish list of all the things they wished they could do. Somebody did a great subject on that about how these things had been kind of in the works, but the ability to spot, mass spying and mass surveillance, and nobody knew how to get it through. There was no way that anybody was going to be able to go for this. And then September 11th happened. It's like, oh, well, we have carte blanche to kind of pass whatever we want now. They'll go along with anything.
A lot of gunfire from both sides. Was this small arms fire that's being aimed at you guys?
Did any Americans even die?
Fire, there was larger automatic weapons fire.
And sort of the
invasion? RPGs started coming in.
It was like 5,000 that died there over the course of 10 years.
Sure.
Well, that was the occupation, though, like the suicide bombers and stuff.
You're talking like the actual initial invasion.
Was not a normal fighting
a couple dozen.
They were put together.
This one guy gets shot here in the foot. See, look, he gets shot in the foot.
They expect the latest contact where we were, and it
probably hurts really bad.
Now we're seeing what looks
massive
like
tanks,
essentially charging.
Bradley tanks.
At this point, do they decide to rush the enemy forces, or do they have them on the run here?
Well, it's fairly early on. We're doing pretty well right there. The American forces very much had charge.
These psychos love this shit.
As you can see, I believe they're going up toward...
this guy gets shot in the foot, and then he's like still shooting his freaking machine gun.
He knows somebody was videotaping.
Yeah, exactly.
That would do the exact same thing.
Oh, it hurts.
Same thing.
Oh, no, I would.
I
Give me some hydrocodone.
Machine gun as they're dragging me away.
From the U.S. forces and very much level.
These guys all have a hard on for this shit.
Yeah.
Oh, this was an crazy story, dude. Holy cow. I don't know if you followed this, but you remember the reports of the WMD came from one specific person, and it was all fucking manufactured.
Yeah, the Con Network, right?
Hold on a second.
This guy that was,
It was one guy, dude. And it was bullshit.
Yeah.
He was a liar. They did a lie detector test on him. He failed the lie detector test, and they run with it anyway. And they were spreading this shit everywhere, dude, to all the major media outlets.
Yeah, so it was supposed to have been this, I believe it was supposed to have been a Middle Eastern fellow. And he was this broker that was dealing with Iran and Iraq and Afghanistan and Pakistan and North Korea. And he was basically this international, not even arms, but weapons of mass destruction dealer. I'd say his name was Khan.
The one I saw said Rendon, but that was the CIA guy. And the journalist who published all this shit was Judith Miller, and she got eviscerated on Jon Stewart's show, if you remember that.
Carter as the director of scheduling. He was also the state coordinator in Maine for the McGovern campaign. Bamford writes that the Pentagon secretly awarded Rendon a $16 million contract to target Iraq and other adversaries with propaganda. One of the most powerful...
This fucking PR firm, the CIA hired this huge PR firm to spread this propaganda
people
for the
in
war,
Washington.
Dude.
John Rendon's a leader in the strategic field known as perception management, manipulating information and, by extension, the news media to achieve the desired result. His firm has made millions off government contracts since '91, when it was hired by the CIA.
So taxpayers paid for a PR firm to spread misinformation and propaganda to themselves. Doesn't that seem a little Orwellian?
Crazy idea. You know, there are arguments to be... I think that there are good arguments for invading Afghanistan. I don't think that we've necessarily followed those good motives. And I think that there are arguments you could make, good arguments, for invading Iraq. You have to make those arguments and let them stand or fall as they are. When you go into having to propagandize the population or yourself to go along with something like that, and it's a no-go. That in and of itself just...
That tells you right there that
did they ever have any credibility? I was going to say, did they have any credibility to lose in the first place? I don't think so. But hey, how about we have open and honest discussion as a population? These are what the facts are. I'm the Commander-in-Chief. This is what I think we should do. This is how I think we should go about it. What say you people?
How about this?
Is there agreement?
How about every time a lobbyist lobbies Congress for anything, it has to be recorded and available for the public to watch, the lobbying efforts. Because that's normally they do these at restaurants or like behind closed doors, these meetings. That would help some.
Well, it comes back to lobbyists again. You know, I mean, yeah, that's the system we would have is you have the Commander-in-Chief, and then the Congress has to give him the power to do it, you know, authorize war. Hopefully they would be influenced by the people, but they're not. They're influenced by the lobbyists. So.
Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist Judith Miller, over her reporting, which led us into the U.S.-Iraq War.
Due to copyright claims from Viacom, I had to cut the Jon Stewart footage, but I do encourage you to watch the interview for yourself. It's very enlightening. Judith Miller on Jon Stewart.
Yeah, he's great, dude.
But he nailed her. She had a narrative that she was trying to push, and she was just...
These fucking journalists want to stay buddy-buddy with these contacts they have in the intelligence community, so they fucking kiss their ass.
All about that access. You are going to continue to be chosen to be given kind of inside information if you put out only the information they want you to. If you start trying to make the intelligence community look silly, they're going to stop talking to you altogether.
So, bin Laden was a Saudi from a wealthy Saudi family, as were 15 out of 19 of the 9/11 terrorists. And there's an article in Intercept just this week talking about more information being released, linking the Saudi Arabian royal family to these attacks. There's a great article in the Intercept. Go check that out, guys. The Prince Bandar, the former Saudi ambassador to the U.S., directly involved with the hijackers, giving them housing and taking care of them while they're over here. We'll skip past that, though. The vote out, let's see. We were voted out in January of 2020. In December 2019, Iraq and the United States began discussing the partial withdrawal of American combat troops from Iraq. In January 2020, during massive protests and following an escalation of tensions between the United States and Iran, the Iraqi Council of Representatives passed a non-binding measure to expel all foreign troops from their country, including American and Iranian troops. Following the vote, U.S. President Donald Trump initially refused to withdraw from Iraq, but began withdrawing forces in March. And we have slowly drawn back forces. We have not initiated any sort of complete withdrawal, though we have, how many troops? 1,500 still?
Sounds right.
I'm not sure the exact number, but
it was
a good contingent.
It was like 5,000 Trump office. He drew it down pretty substantially. I think it's grown down a bit.
Guantanamo Bay Detention Camp. Remember this. This is where we sent all the people that we kidnapped out of Iraq. Of the 780 people detained there since January 2002, when the military prison first opened after the September 11th attacks, 39 still remain, and 9 have died while in custody. This was established by W. Bush.
There's still people there?
There's still people there, yeah. 39 remain, and 9 have died while in custody, out of 731. Everybody promises to close it, and hasn't closed.
Have the... I'm assuming they're not holding... Like they've had some sort of trial for the people that are still there.
No. They hold them in Cuba so they don't have to give them habeas corpus.
Yeah, they gave them the military tribunals.
No, they haven't had shit. They're just languishing.
They had some for some people.
Yeah, and those guys got released, some of them back to their home countries and whatnot, because they're probably fucking innocent. Abu Ghraib. This was a prison in Iraq where the U.S. tortured people. A lot of people. The George W. Bush administration claimed that the abuses at Abu Ghraib were isolated incidents and not indicative of U.S. policy. This was disputed by the humanitarian organizations such as the Red Cross, Amnesty International, and Human Rights Watch. These organizations stated that the abuses at Abu Ghraib were part of a wider pattern of torture and brutal treatment at American overseas detention centers, including those in Iraq and Afghanistan and at Guantanamo Bay.
This is also when we learned about waterboarding.
Oh, yeah, we're going to get there. Let's see if I have this.
Okay.
Oh, this is the chick. You remember this chick? She was in all the photographs. Let's see if I can find the photographs.
She was from Abu Ghraib?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like young chick?
Sure I do. Yeah, a young, attractive girl with the guy on a leash.
Yeah. This one?
Yes.
Yeah, that one. There she is again. She faced quite a bit of scrutiny after that, obviously. Lindy England. This is fascinating, dude.
In Orient, we were such a tight family. You know, hey.
Order and discipline seem to have dissolved in Abu Ghraib.
She looked completely disinterested in this picture. I recall that very vividly, that she looked like somebody had this idea.
But not like... And I walked over to the hard site on Alpha. That's when they were bringing them in. They were handcuffed, and they had sandbags over their heads. At that point, they were still clothed. They were thrown in a pile. Then they were jumped on, but not like so many times that we would break a rib or whatnot. I mean, and there was stomping on hands and feet.
Can you tell me what was happening here when this picture was taken?
That's when they were, after they had been stripped and unhandcuffed, they were then placed in a pyramid pile by Granner to...
So this is her boyfriend or something here. This guy is actually the sick fuck mastermind behind all this shit, I think, and she just kind of went along. She enjoyed it too, obviously, but... God.
Yeah.
It's no wonder they hate us, bro. Come on,
it's
dude.
Stuff like that.
God.
Any step forward you made in
I don't know why they hate us. It's so crazy.
You're going to
so
take
awesome.
stuff like that just puts you 20 years back. Every time one of those comes out, and you and I both know there's
how many
nothing
terrorists
more
did that fucking shit create, you know?
Yeah, there's nothing more. You and I both know there's nothing more that a prison guard loves more than abusing a prisoner. Now, you add into that they're in a different country, that these are people, you know, in their mind that attack this. They don't have, they're subhuman peoples. They're not entitled to U.S. civil rights. And no one in their right mind that was setting up these military prisons, which, I mean, there is a need for them if you're going to conduct a war, no one in their right mind would have not put 10 different separate oversight committees over top of these to make sure these things didn't happen. If you're not concerned about protecting their rights, that's fine. But even for your own self-interest in pushing this war, it just does so much harm.
You would think so, huh? You would think so, but
Yeah.
people are so fucking selfish, and all they care about is their own individual. You know, the CEO of Abu Ghraib sort of tried to pretend that this was not his fault, but he knew about it, and there's photographs of him overseeing this shit and a lot of the torture he ordered. Here is one of your guys, Christopher Hitchens. Remember this? Where he volunteered to be waterboarded?
I do, yeah.
This was a classic.
He said he had problems sleeping for months. He would wake up in the middle of the night thinking he couldn't breathe.
Oh, dude, no doubt. That's some PTSD fuel there. And they have him strapped. Christopher Hitchens here, the late, great Christopher Hitchens, strapped to a board sort of slightly downhill where his head is on the lower side. They put a towel over his head and they waterboard him, essentially. They pour water on his face. They're supposed to do it 10 to 15 seconds on and then 10 to 15 seconds off, and that's the torture. He lasts longer than I would probably last.
So
he lasts like 3 or 4 seconds.
I actually read Hitchens' memoir where he talks about this. He had this set up to where he didn't know what day it was going to be, and he actually had these guys kidnap him, essentially.
Oh, really?
But yeah, so he actually has these guys come, basically pull him off the street, throw him in a van, they take him there.
Oh, there he goes. Then, he threw it. He threw the things.
So this is the second time.
Really?
The first time, maybe he did it twice. So the first time, he almost immediately, said
That's what I
or
saw.
threw down the thing.
Yeah, I saw the things after like the first time he did it. When it was like one second.
Maybe this is the first time, but he was so embarrassed by. He thought he could at least last as long as he could hold his breath, and
right.
So
that's what he did this time, basically.
He talked them into doing it again, and they were like, "I don't know if that's a great idea." And he's like,
It has the effect of tightening the grip of this stuff over your face and mouth and nostrils. So it's a smothering feeling as well as a drowning feeling. They told me that when I activated the dead man's handle, which is a simple process, you simply release something, you let it go. I didn't do that. I practically, even though my hands were bound, I sort of, as near as you could, I threw the thing out of my hand. I mean, I really wanted it to stop.
What a great orator he was, man. I don't agree with a lot of his positions, but he was a great speaker.
He had a way with words, for sure. And he was not shy about his support for the war in Iraq, the war in Afghanistan, but he was completely against this. Absolutely, yes, it was torture. And
yeah. The 2001 Anthrax attacks, also known as Amerithrax, which I had never heard that name before, occurred in the U.S. over several weeks, beginning on September 18, 2001, 1 week after the September 11th terrorist attacks. Letters containing anthrax spores were mailed to several news media offices and to Democratic Senators Tom Daschle and Patrick Leahy, killing 5 people and affecting 17 others. According to the FBI, the investigation was one of the largest and most complex ever. This is a crazy story, dude. Let me read this second paragraph here. A major focus early was this guy Stephen Hatfield, who was eventually exonerated. Bruce Edward Ivins, a scientist at the government's biodefense labs at, you guessed it, Fort Detrick in Frederick, Maryland, became a focus around April 4th, 2005. On April 11th, 2007, Ivins was put under periodic surveillance, and an FBI document stated that he was an extremely sensitive suspect in the 2001 anthrax attacks. On July 29th, 2008, Ivins committed suicide with an overdose of acetaminophen. That was the end of that investigation. The investigation was questioned, though. Senator Chuck Grassley called for hearings into the Department of Justice and FBI's handling of the investigation, and there was a review of their scientific methods. That the report of that investigation cast doubt on the government's conclusion that Ivins was the perpetrator. This guy Ivins was a sick fuck, though. Yeah. His therapist talked about how he talked about how he had poisoned people or tried to poison people before. There was no evidence that he had, though. But that was the guy that we pinned it on. That was crazy. Do you remember that, the Anthrax thing?
Very well, yeah. I remember all the kind of wild speculation and fear that surrounded that too. About what if
it was all speculation? There was never any sort of idea of who it could have been.
What if we get anthrax here at the school? What if they send anthrax to Walmart? What if they explode an anthrax bomb in the middle of a park?
There was paranoia about the mail for quite a while.
It was a crazy time. Yeah, checking the mail was a scary thing. What if
powder in your mail? People would mail baking soda and shit.
And then the pranksters out there sending out baking soda and sugar and it was like a federal. Of course, this all come right at the time of the Patriot Act, and
the next
we started having our mail watch.
The USA Patriot Act, commonly known as the Patriot Act, signed into law by W. Bush. The goal was to dramatically tighten U.S. national security, particularly as it related to terrorism, including expanded surveillance abilities of law enforcement, including tapping domestic and international phones. Eased intra-agency communication to allow federal agencies to more effectively use all available resources. Increased penalties for terrorism. Is controversial due to its authoritarian, due to its authorization of indefinite detention without trial of immigrants, and due to the permission given to law enforcement to search property and records without a warrant, consent, or knowledge. These are all still active. These major provisions that are still BS and interfere with basic, constitutional rights are still in effect. In 2011, Barack Obama signed the Patriot Sunset Extension Act of 2011, which extended 3 provisions. President Obama, definitely not a supporter of civil rights. Let's just put it that way. With his support for the Patriot Act and his drone killings. Here are some estimates. On Friday, 14th September 2007, ORB International, an independent polling agency located in London, published estimates for Iraq at over 1.2 million deaths. This estimate is the highest number published so far. Margin of error plus or minus 2.5%. They calculated a range of between 730,000 to 1.4 million deaths. The ORB estimate was performed by random survey. This is the highest estimate ever, but this estimate is pretty much in line with the other estimates. They're anywhere between 100,000 and a million or so. So 10 times
for the deaths in Iraq.
10 times the death toll in Iraq of Afghanistan. 10 times.
There's a bit of what you call controversy or misleading. My understanding is about those numbers. I'm sure the numbers are correct, but what they're adding to those numbers. So what all they're counting as deaths from Iraq. So
sure,
like those are the civil war ensuing in areas that were not occupied by U.S. troops, or the people that die in those civil wars between areas that the U.S. was not involved in. That 1 million figure counts those people. Counts people that died from lack of medicine. You can argue, and I think you have a good point, that something like that, if someone has, because the infrastructure is not there.
Well, that's what's happening in Afghanistan right now.
Yeah, a diabetic doesn't have their medicine. The U.S. has some responsibility for it now. Do they have complete responsibility? Do they have complete responsibility if some...
How do they know?
If some extremist group pops up because of the power vacuum and starts killing their neighbors, is that...
That's
I know, I think... Yeah, of course. Those are all different
bombs
things,
on a country, you're going to damage the infrastructure so badly that people are going to die, man.
Sure. My point is that these are not direct deaths from the U.S., and a lot of those deaths that were included in that number, the U.S. is not fully responsible, and you can kind of argue, I would say you can kind of argue the degree of responsibility that we have for them. I think direct deaths that the U.S. is involved in was like 1 to 200,000. They can be directly attributed from our occupation to, this is how the person died.
The CIA, he wasn't the head of the CIA, but he was a higher up, and he was oversaw the waterboarding of the guy we also blamed, Jose Rodriguez.
Well, think of somebody else.
Leslie Stahl about waterboarding the man who planned 9/11. Khalid Sheikh Mohammed strapped to a board, tilted head down, a cloth placed over his face, and water poured over his mouth to give the sensation of drowning. But Rodriguez tells Stahl that Mohammed was tough. They had to pour the water more than 180 times.
This is an individual who probably didn't give a rat's ass about having water poured on his face.
He never believed for 1 second you were going to kill him.
No. And let me just tell you,
he was pure evil.
Sheikh Mohammed would use his fingers to count the number of seconds because he knew that in all likelihood we would stop at 10. So this doesn't sound like a person who is afraid of dying.
If he's sitting there counting off, he knows you're not going to kill him, he knows he's not going to drown, then why do it? What's the point?
I think that the cumulative effect of waterboarding and sleep deprivation and everything else that was done eventually got to him.
So what happens? Does he break down? Does he weep? Does he fall apart?
No, he gets a good night's sleep. He gets his insure. By the way, he was very heavy when he came to us, and he lost 50 pounds.
What, his insure? You mean like people in the hospital who drink that stuff?
Yes. Dietary manipulation was part of these standard techniques.
So sleep deprivation, dietary manipulation, I mean, this is Orwellian stuff. The United States doesn't do that.
Well, we do.
Yeah, see, we're good. We did a good thing for him. We actually lost 50 pounds, see? We were good. We did a good thing.
Yeah, Hitchens said there's no way that guy didn't tell everything he knew after the first couple times of being waterboarded, in his estimation.
Well, look, there's a very well-known principle in intelligence. It's the reason torture doesn't work, because if you torture an innocent person, they'll make shit up, and this is probably what happened with this guy. You know, I'm sure he told him anything he could tell him to stop the fucking torture. That's what you do when you're being tortured.
Well, I mean, yeah, so somebody's being tortured, they're either going to tell you the truth or tell you what they think you want to hear.
Which is more likely.
At that point, it's completely impossible. It's completely impossible to determine, okay, is he just telling us, is he telling us the truth, or is he telling us what we want to hear? So that's why you torture him, James. Jesus, man.
But we do.
Which one was the truth?
I'm sorry, everyone's favorite ex-president, the best president we've ever had, obviously.
Ronald Reagan?
Talking about waterboarding.
We're weak. We're ineffective. During one of the debates, they asked Lying Ted about waterboarding. And he didn't want to answer because it was it was a question. What do you think about waterboarding? And he didn't want to get involved because he was afraid it wasn't politically correct. And he gave a nothing answer, a weak, pathetic answer like we always give. They asked me, what do you think about waterboarding, Mr. Trump? I said, I love it.
I love it. That's a classic clip there. I love it. I bet you do, Trump. How long would Trump last, do you think? 180 times?
God. Oh, my God.
All right. Thanks for coming on the show this week, Tony. It was a lot of fun, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, good as always. Check us out. BetterMaxPerformance.com. ShowerHempFarms.com. Stop by, check us out. Peace.
We'll see you later. Have a good one, man.
Later.